It's time for the Leadership Lunch Break with Joy Jackson of Speaking of Joye. Let's tune in for today's discussion.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Leadership Lunch Break. I'm Joy Jackson of Speaking of Joye, and this is episode 40. Oh my gosh. Who knew that I would have done 40 episodes of the Leadership Lunch Break? So today my topic is how it's been and how it's going. I just want to share with you some thoughts and ideas about what I've learned throughout the Leadership Lunch Break, what I've learned about myself, what I've learned about these lunch breaks. This will be the last episode for this season. I don't even know if I can really call it a season because this was really an idea that I had, and it's kind of taken on its own self. So I'll tell you a little bit about how I got started. Leadership Lunch Break was started because I wanted to do some leadership thoughts and ideas and principles for everyday leaders. I sat in leadership, you know that about me, and did a lot of leadership work and realized that leaders have good titles, but they don't necessarily have all the skills that they need to be leaders. So I started the Leadership Lunch Break as a quick way to provide leadership tools and techniques and principles to individuals who were in a leadership role. And it didn't necessarily mean that you had to have a leadership title, which, Speaking of Joye says all the time, is you don't have to have a title to be in leadership, but you may find yourself as a leader if you have influence and responsibility. So that's how I started the Leadership Lunch Break. And originally, the Leadership Lunch Break was only supposed to be 15 minutes. And that was because I felt that as leaders, if you were like me, when you would go in between meetings, you really had about 15 minutes. And that 15 minutes was time for you to check your emails. If you could call home and check on a spouse or a loved one, a significant other, you could do that. You could run to the restroom and maybe sprucing up your coffee or your tea. I'm a tea drinker, but any of those things. And that was really all you had time for. So the Leadership Lunch Break was designed to be that 15 minutes, right? Excuse me. Was designed to be that 15 minutes. And when I started, I said a couple of things. I was like, I'm going to give 15 minutes of great information about leadership from my kitchen. So thank you to Shavana Schreiber from SNR Creative. I was brainstorming with her and she actually gave me this idea. And it was like, hey, you should do it in your kitchen, straight from your kitchen while you're making lunch. I said, cool. Sounds like a plan. So I decided that I solicited some help. Got friends who are people who do production. So I was able to solicit some of the friends for production assistance and decided to launch the Leadership Lunch Break from my kitchen. And this is how we started. So I'm going to show you some videos of the original Leadership Lunch Breaks so that you can see how everything really went. Good afternoon. I'm Joy Jackson with Speaking of Joye, and I want to welcome you to the Leadership Lunch Break. The purpose of the Leadership Lunch Break is to provide you with the tools and the necessary techniques that you need to be an effective leader. Now, at Speaking of Joye, we don't define leadership by position or power, but truly by influence and responsibility. So, if you find yourself in influence or with responsibility to others, you're already a leader. So I invite you every Thursday right here in my kitchen as we do the Leadership Lunch Break. We will have guests, we'll have discussions, and we'll have a little lunch. So I'll see you on Thursday. Okay, so that was the very first Leadership Lunch Break. Thank you so much. Let me tell y'all, you have to have a village in cheerleaders, and this is my village in cheerleaders. One of my number one fans, this is my mom. She says, congratulations, 40 episodes. The lunch break has truly evolved into an informative lunchtime. I agree, because if you watch that first episode, let me tell you, the first thing I tried to figure out is what the heck was I going to cook? Because what I forgot was that when you look at the cooking shows, they've got full-on production. They've got scripts, they've got makeup and hair. They probably even have other people prepping the food for them. And so when they have all of that set up, they'll have all the prep. It took forever just to put the apple out and to position it in a way so that it would not interfere with me. I happen to be left-handed, so everything was on the left side, which was a little odd. And it was just a lot going on. But that was my actual kitchen. So I tried the leadership lunch break in the kitchen again because I said, you know what? We're going to figure this out. So here is another example of the leadership lunch break. Good afternoon. I'm Joy Jackson of Speaking of Joy, and welcome to the leadership lunch break. The leadership lunch break is an opportunity for us to get together over lunch and discuss leadership principles. Today, from right here in my own kitchen, we're going to make a little salad. As you can see, we were having some difficulties. And you saw all of that stuff out there for a salad. Let me tell you, it was the hardest salad I've ever had to make, because trying to talk to you and make a salad and share leadership principles was a lot. So the leadership lunch break has evolved over time, and it's turned into something that I didn't know what it would be. For many, many episodes at the beginning, I did them from different places in my house. I did some from my outside in the front yard, which was a mess because cars kept passing by. I did them from my in front of my Christmas tree. So we went a lot of places. Shout out to Reggie Williams for being my camera guy. But I'll tell you, the one thing that never changed about the leadership lunch break was that my desire was to provide information that would be useful. And I will say that over time, it has been a blessing that I've been able to do that. I mean, we've had topics all over the place. We've talked about perfection and integrity. We've talked about authenticity, confidence. We've talked about finances. We've talked about starting over. We've talked about financial freedom and rest. There have been so many topics that really have blessed me. And even if you didn't catch them all, they were such a blessing to me. And it challenged me to be a better employer, a better entrepreneur, a better wife, a better mother. And what I learned about myself through this process is that I have the skills necessary to be the best leader that I want to be. And I'll say that to you. You have the skills necessary. Sometimes it's just about fine-tuning them or tweaking them just a little bit so that you can have and be the leader that you want to be. I truly believe that no leader wants to be a bad leader. I truly believe that every leader wants to maximize and influence in a way that leaves a legacy. And so it's important as a leader that you remember that every single day that you have the power. The other thing that I learned through the leadership lunch breaks is that there are so many people who are resources for us in this world. I will tell you that every person that I had on the leadership lunch break, first, a huge thank you to them, but also I want to let you know that there are people in my network and they were willing to jump on the leadership lunch break, even when it started off with just me and a theory and an idea, all the way to what you've been watching. And it's because I've built relationships and have a network. And I will tell you, relationships are so important, not just in the business world, but in your personal life as well. You want to have relationships, and not because they can do something for you, but you want to have relationships with people because that flourishes and builds you and encourages you, and it makes you a better you when you have those relationships. So relationships are super important, and resources are important, and you never know who is able to help you until you ask. I'll tell you, when I started the leadership lunch breaks, part of the reason they were done by myself is because I was afraid to ask people to join the leadership lunch break. When I got the idea that I was going to invite people on, it was really hard for me to ask people to join, because I said things like, oh, this is where imposter syndrome comes in. I said things like, oh, I'm just getting started on the leadership lunch break. I don't have a big viewing audience. Oh, I'm looking at some of the people that I have in my network and they've got thousands of followers and they've got so many resources and products. They definitely wouldn't want to be on a show like the leadership lunch break. I started saying, well, I don't really know what I'm doing. I mean, I've got a degree in communications. I can talk to anybody, but I don't know what I'm going to do. So it's hard to ask. And then suddenly I got the gumption to ask. And when I started to ask people, they were delighted to be on the leadership lunch break. So I personally want to thank everyone who has been on the leadership lunch break, because you've made the lunch break better. I will also tell you some things that I learned about myself while doing this lunch break is I really put my editing skills to the test. Like I have a degree in radio and TV broadcasting, and I've used those skills. I also had years of experience in radio in Houston. I've used the skills. So be prepared for the things that you've learned in your life to come back in a way that will help you. And that has really been a blessing to me. I will tell you this, I realize I'm also better live. Y'all saw those videos. Like, no, I love interacting, whether it's 1 or 100 or 1,000 people. I love doing the work live. So I will tell you that my leadership lunch breaks are never scripted. We just get on here and talk. I don't send pre-questions. And I tell people when they join, hey, listen, this is live. I want it to be authentic and transparent. And our conversations will go all over the place. So what was a 15-minute conversation for the leadership lunch break really has turned into hours, because the goal is to give you the information and the tools that you need to be successful. So the leadership lunch break has morphed into something so much greater than what I thought it was or what I thought it could be. And I'm so very, see my shirt, blessed to be able to do that. I'm so very blessed to be able to do the work that I do. I will tell you that I never in a million years thought that I would be here. Sitting in front of a screen, yes, but sitting in front of a screen with clients and coaching, I never thought I would do that. But I will tell you, it has been the most rewarding experience in my professional life. I will tell you, just the ability to get up every day and work for myself. And even if you're not an entrepreneur, but to get up every day and to walk in your full God-given purpose, it's unmatched. It's unmatched to be able to sit and to know what you've been called to do and to walk and execute in what you are able to do. Now, you'll have some bumps along the way. You'll have some challenges along the way. You'll have some funny videos like I did along the way. But at the end of the day, to know that the contributions that you're making are for God's glory and for his people, you can't beat that anywhere. And so, speaking of joy, and this leadership lunch break has been one of my blessings. Now, I haven't always been in the mood to do it. And let me just pause and say, that's important to acknowledge, because so many times as women and as professionals, we get up every day and we put on a smile and we go to work and we do the work even when we're not feeling it. And believe it or not, we all do that. And so there were times on the leadership lunch break where I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to talk about. I don't know what we're going to do. And just when that moment would happen, God would drop something in my spirit for me to say, or give me a person who would come my way that I could have on the lunch break. So it's been a real blessing, I will tell you. And I've never tried to put on a show. I've tried to give you authentic joy every day, but I'm learning myself. So even as I am Joy, and I'm 41, next month I'll be 42, I'm learning more about myself. I'm learning more about my tolerance. I'm learning more about being vulnerable. I'm learning more about my mistakes. I'm learning more about my purpose and my passion. I'm learning every day. In the leadership lunch break, there have been so many quotes. I started to put a reel together of all the quotes that people said, but listen, it was so many of them. It was so many ahas. I've gotten so much feedback from people who say, I love the way you shake your head. I love the way I'm like, but you don't understand. It's ministry. And not only are we ministering to others, we're ministering to ourselves. And that's how you know you're really walking in purpose. When you're able to hear yourself and see yourself in every conversation and everything that you pour out. And I've been blessed to do that for 40 episodes. We started this, I believe, in February. This has been the longest season I think ever in the history of seasons. But I was just trying something out. I being very honest and transparent. I was trying something out. I had no idea that it was going to take off. And I was afraid to stop because the momentum was going so well. So I was afraid that if I stopped or if I took a break, that people wouldn't want the leadership lunch break anymore, that people wouldn't gravitate to it. So I just kept going, which has been a blessing. And I can honestly say that in the 40 episodes, there's only been one time that I have not shown up on a Thursday. And that was the time that I said I was out to lunch. And I'm so blessed that every single Thursday I've been able to present to you and give to you what God gives to me as it relates to leadership and development. You will notice if you follow me over time that this has gone from still called leadership, but there's so many titles that we've talked about. And you've noticed that it's been more about just you being a better you. And I will tell you, if you are a person who lives in purpose, your goal in life should be to make people better when they leave your presence. And that's been my desire, especially as an entrepreneur. And speaking of joy, my hope and my prayer is that after people come in contact with me or come in contact with Speaking of Joy or become a client or a coaching client, that when it's all said and done, they're better. That's it. That you're better. You're a better wife. You're a better employee. You're a better employer. You're a better mother. Whatever it is, that's my commitment. And that's what Speaking of Joy is all about. It's making you better. It's more about transformation. I tell people all the time, if you follow Speaking of Joy, you see on my website and everything that I say inspiration is just the beginning. Because listen, we're all inspired. I look on social media, I see somebody who has worked out and lost a lot of weight. I'm inspired instantly. But am I motivated? And that's the difference. Inspiration is nothing more than an external something that excites you. Motivation is what's inside of you that gets you to the point where you actually want to do the work. But it's not until you have inspiration and motivation that you actually see transformation. And so my goal is for you to be transformed. My goal is for you to be better and never the way you used to be. And the only way we can do that is through inspiration, which is what I can provide you. But I want to get and tap into your motivation. Why are you doing this? Why do you watch the Leadership Lunch Break? Why are you striving to be a better person? Why are you striving to be a better leader? And then once we go through that, you will see transformation. And I hope that this Leadership Lunch Break has really transformed you in some way. It's made you a better something. It's made you want to be a better something. And I want to continue that journey with you. So although the Leadership Lunch Break is taking a pause because I think season 1 really has. I mean, I don't even know if do shows have, I don't think shows have 40 episodes in one season. Like, for example, I watched the Ozarks and they're coming out with, no, not the Ozarks, Manifest. They're coming out with a new season and it's going to be, I think 20 episodes, but they're going to split them up over probably 2 or 3 seasons. So this has been the longest season, but I am so proud to have done this work with you. Let me tell you some great things that I have coming up. September the 28th, which is in a few weeks, I'm going to be doing a balance workshop. So if you haven't already, you need to download the balance workbook. I want you to participate. It's free, a free workshop on balance. I've told everybody, balance is not something you have, it's something you create. And my workshop, Balance is BS, is coming September 28th. So you can go to Eventbrite, you can go to my website and you'll be able to register right there. I want to see you on the 28th. Also, there are some great things coming out in October. I will begin a different series. I'll tell you more about it as we get closer, but it's a series where we'll be able to journal together and to pray together and to walk together, to find and to be the people that God has called us to be. So I definitely want you to look out for that as well. So yeah, I want to thank you. Thank you so much for the Leadership Lunch Break. I want to thank every single person that has been a part of the Leadership Lunch Break. Barbara Vera Cruz, Beverly Allen, Regina Alexander, Chastity Sanier, Christy Staples, Crystal Garcia, Delali Pataki, Monica Amerson, Carlotta Colquitt, Emily Macklin, Galit Rosen, Hannah Peace, Joyce Johnson, Kendrick Thomas, who was the only man on the Leadership Lunch Break, Lanessa Moshe, LaShasta Bell, Mika Diamond, Seneca Dunmore, Zandra Evans, Carla and Camille, which are the HR twins, and Tawana Moore. All of these people have been on the Leadership Lunch Break. And I want to thank Fishmark Creative Mark Fisher for the voiceovers that you've heard. People have asked about that. So I want to thank you. It's been a pleasure doing the lunch breaks. If you want to catch them, you can always catch them on my YouTube channel, Speaking of Joy. They also will become podcasts. So make sure you're following because I'm going to continue to let you know when the podcast will be released. So before we wrap up, I want to show you something really quick and then we'll come back. All right. Again, I want to thank you all so very much for joining the Leadership Lunch Break today. For the last 39, this makes the 40th episode. I appreciate you. I appreciate your support. As we get ready for the new season of the Leadership Lunch Break, I would love to know who you'd like to see on. If you know someone who you think would be a great asset to the Leadership Lunch Break, please, by all means, shoot me an email at info@speakingofjoye.com. If there are topics that you want to cover, I want to make this about you. I want to make sure that you become the best leader possible through the Leadership Lunch Break. So I want to thank you again. God bless you, and I'll see you real soon.
Thank you for joining the Leadership Lunch Break. Join us next Thursday at noon Central Standard Time for lunch as we continue our discussions. Follow Speaking of Joye on all social media platforms or visit our website at www.speakingofjoye.com. That's www.speakingofjoye.com. Until next week.